The earth trembled beneath titans that could swallow mountains whole, yet in a single breath of cosmic fury, they vanished forever. 4.7 million years ago, our world was a nightmare of scales, fangs, and endless hunger, where survival meant outsmarting death itself every waking moment. Imagine standing where your ancestors once stood, watching shadows of impossible size drift across primordial landscapes. The air thick with the musk of creatures that made today's elephants look like house cats. This was Earth before mercy, before forgiveness, a planet where only the cunning and the desperate lived to see another dawn. In the heart of Africa, where the great Rift Valley carved its scars into the continent, early hominids moved like ghosts through forests that stretched beyond horizons. These weren't the humans you know. They were something raw, more desperate. Australopithecus afarensis, walking upright on legs barely 3 feet tall, clutching stone tools that represented the difference between feast and famine. But they weren't alone in this verdant hell. The forests pulsed with predators that evolution had sculpted into perfect killing machines. Dinophilis, the false saber-tooth, stalked through the undergrowth with canines designed to pierce skulls in a single bite. Its fossils tell us everything we need to know about our ancestors' nightmares. These cats specialized in hunting primates, and early humans were their preferred prey. But the true horror wasn't what hunted on 4 legs. It was what ruled the skies above. Argentavis magnificens soared overhead with wingspans reaching 25 feet, casting shadows that could eclipse entire tribes. These weren't scavengers waiting for scraps. They were active predators, capable of lifting full-grown humans into the clouds, never to be seen again. Yet somehow, against impossible odds, our ancestors endured. How did creatures barely taller than children survive in a world designed to devour them? The answer lies buried in layers of ash and bone, in fossil records that reveal a truth more terrifying than any predator. The Earth itself was about to turn against all life. The climate was shifting with geological violence. What scientists call the Pliocene epoch was ending in catastrophic upheaval. Temperatures plummeted as ice sheets advanced from the poles, like slow-motion avalanches of death. The lush forests that had sheltered early humans began to wither and die, replaced by vast savannas that offered nowhere to hide. This wasn't gradual change, it was environmental warfare. Within a few 100,000 years, entire ecosystems collapsed. The fossil record shows mass extinctions rippling across every continent, as if the planet had decided to start over with a clean slate. Giant ground sloths, massive bears, and countless other megafauna simply vanished from the fossil record, leaving only bones as monuments to their failure. But here's where the story takes its darkest turn. Recent discoveries suggest our ancestors weren't just witnesses to this apocalypse. They may have been its architects. Stone tools from this period show increasingly sophisticated hunting techniques, evidence of coordinated attacks on creatures 10 times their size. Some paleontologists now believe early humans didn't just survive the megafauna extinctions, they caused them. The evidence is written in bone and stone across multiple continents. Wherever early humans migrated, large animals disappeared with suspicious timing. It's as if our ancestors carried extinction in their wake like a plague, systematically eliminating anything too large to coexist with human ambition. Consider the mathematics of survival in this ancient world. A single Dinophilis could feed its family for weeks by taking down one early human. But a tribe of 20 humans, armed with fire and sharp stones, could bring down a creature the size of a modern elephant. The equation was brutally simple: kill or be killed, with no middle ground for mercy. The volcanic activity during this period adds another layer to our ancestors' struggle. The Ethiopian rift was incredibly active, belching sulfur and ash into skies that were already darkening with climate change. Some scientists theorize that volcanic winters may have created the environmental pressure that forced early humans to develop more sophisticated hunting strategies and social cooperation. Yet they persevered through conditions that would challenge modern civilization. They learned to make fire when the world grew cold, to craft weapons when predators grew hungry, to work together when everything else fell apart. Their bones tell stories of healed fractures and old age, proof that even in this hellscape they found ways to care for the wounded and protect the weak. If these desperate ancestors could survive when the earth itself turned hostile, when every shadow held death and every day demanded impossible choices, what does that say about the fire that burns in human DNA? What sleeping strength lies dormant in our modern comfort, waiting for the next great test? Follow us deeper into the shadows of our past, where the next chapter reveals how these survivors changed from prey into something far more dangerous, the species that would inherit the earth through blood and ash. The survivors who emerged from that ancient crucible weren't the same creatures who had cowered in trees just millennia before. They carried something new in their eyes, a cold intelligence that would reshape the very concept of predator and prey. What walked upright across the changing savannas was no longer just another species fighting for survival, but the architects of a new kind of extinction. The transition from Australopithecus to early Homo species wasn't just evolution, it was weaponization. Brain capacity increased by nearly 40% in just a few 100,000 years, an explosive growth that paleontologists struggle to explain through natural selection alone. Something was driving these changes faster than evolution typically allows, as if the Earth itself was forging a new apex predator. Archaeological sites from this period reveal a disturbing pattern. The Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania holds layers upon layers of butchered bones, not just small prey, but massive creatures that should have been impossible for early humans to kill. Elephas reki, ancient elephants standing 12 feet tall, lie scattered in pieces alongside primitive stone tools. The message written in bone is clear. These weren't scavengers anymore. But the true horror lies in what happened next. As human populations spread, they left behind them a trail of empty ecosystems. Australia lost 90% of its megafauna within 50,000 years of human arrival. The Americas saw similar devastation, giant beavers the size of bears, short-faced bears twice the size of modern grizzlies, and massive ground sloths, all vanishing like smoke in the wind. The pattern is so consistent across continents and time periods that it has its own name in paleontology, the Quaternary Extinction Event. But calling it an extinction event makes it sound natural, inevitable. The evidence suggests something far more chilling. It was systematic extermination carried out by creatures who had learned to kill, not just for food, but for dominance. Consider the tools they crafted in those desperate early days. The Acheulean hand axes, found across Africa and beyond, weren't just cutting implements. They were masterpieces of engineering that remained virtually unchanged for over 1 million years. These weren't crude rocks chipped by accident, but precision instruments designed specifically for killing large animals. Each one represents thousands of years of accumulated knowledge about death. The social structures that emerged during this period tell an even darker story. Evidence from sites like Swartkran's cave suggests early humans practiced sophisticated cooperation in hunting, coordinated attacks that could bring down creatures weighing several tons. They had learned something that would separate them from every other species on Earth, the power to kill anything, regardless of size or strength. Fire changed everything, not just for warmth or cooking, but as a weapon of mass destruction. Controlled burns could clear vast areas of forest, driving prey into kill zones where waiting hunters could slaughter entire herds. The charcoal layers in soil samples from this period show evidence of fires far too extensive and frequent to be natural. Early humans had learned to reshape entire landscapes through flame. Yet perhaps the most terrifying development was their treatment of their own kind. Fossil evidence from sites like Buri in Ethiopia reveals cut marks on human bones, clear signs of cannibalism among early Homo sapiens. They had become so efficient at killing that they had turned their methods on themselves. The same intelligence that helped them survive the megafauna apocalypse had created something new. A species that could destroy anything, including its own reflection. The genetic bottlenecks visible in modern human DNA tell the final chapter of this ancient story. Around 70,000 years ago, the human population crashed to perhaps as few as 10,000 individuals worldwide. Something had pushed our species to the very brink of extinction. Possibly the supervolcanic eruption of Mount Toba, or perhaps the logical conclusion of their own destructive efficiency. But they survived. The same ruthless intelligence that had eliminated the giant ground sloths and cave bears now turned toward survival with desperate innovation. They learned to cross oceans, to survive in frozen wastelands, to adapt to every environment the planet could throw at them. They had become the ultimate invasive species. Today, as we stand atop the food chain with the power to eliminate species with the stroke of a pen, we carry within our DNA the memories of those ancient killers. Every tool we build, every system we create, every war we fight, echoes the same pattern established 4.7 million years ago in the African savanna. The pattern of creatures who learn to survive by making everything else extinct. The next time you look in the mirror, remember that you're seeing the descendants of history's most successful predators. The question isn't whether we're capable of causing the next great extinction. The fossil record proves we've been practicing for millions of years. The question is whether we've learned anything from the bones we've left buried in our wake. If you want to uncover more forbidden truths about the monsters we came from and the future we're creating, follow us into the next dark chapter of Earth's hidden history.